Starting. Hello, hello, hello. Here is Simone Vincenti from GTeX. Finally, we made it. We made it. Bit of technical difficulties in the past 5 minutes, but it's not about resources. It's about resourcefulness. So we've been very resourceful, and we made it. Today, we are here for you. Another amazing webinar today with Lina Patel. I'm going to tell you a bit more about Lina in a minute. Now, hello, hello, hello. Just a bit. I got another one thing. Here we are. Okay, I'm done now. So a bit more about GTeX. We are a platform in London where we organize experiential events for personal and business development, but with a twist. They are very interactive, and we are building a strong community because we want people to be supported not just during the event, but also above and beyond, because this is where the real shift happens. And we do this through different other programs like a mastermind, which if you're interested about, just come have a look on our website. And through also regular events where we invite speakers, world-class speakers like Lina today, to deliver their magic, So we are going to have an event on the 1st of July, which I'm going to tell you a bit more later. And Lina is going to be on our stage there. So just let me introduce you to Lina now. She is the founder of Elite Performance Coaching, the world's #1 in global impact system. She has taught her global impact leadership blueprint in over 10 countries and 4 continents globally, and is the most sought-after trainer for up-and-coming leaders in the world of business and government today. She is internationally recognized for supporting individuals to perform at their best in order to be more impactful change makers without sacrificing their core values and ultimately their bottom line. Lina, welcome.
Thank you, Simone. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So this is the introduction that we wanted to give you, but is not, let's say that there is much more than what I read.
Sure.
There is a big heart. There's a person with a big heart, and there's a person with a big vision. And I met Lina because we trained together with Clinton Swain and Frontier Training. And actually, the first time I met Lina, she was my team leader in that seminar. And when I met her first, there was a sudden connection. And there was something about her that was inspiring me. Her determination, her energy, and her commitment and dedication to the cause that in a minute then she's going to talk about. So Lina, if you want to share a bit more to our audience.
Sure. So ultimately, really what I do is I work with change makers, business leaders, leaders of organizations, entrepreneurs that want to really make a positive and powerful difference in the world, and work with them in ways to improve their performance level so that they can really stand out in the marketplace. And really my goal is to sort of work with people so that they can live their truth, live their passion, live with purpose, and make a powerful difference in the world, and do it in a way that's really serving humanity in a uplifting, empowering way.
And you are a living example of these words. The reason why we call Lina here on this webinar and on the GTeX stage, it is not just because she's an amazing speaker and she has amazing content, which we can find in them everywhere, but she's really walking her talk. So Lina, can you share with us what inspired you and what moved you to go in this journey and to do what you do now?
So my purpose, Elite Performance Coaching, is really a training company where I help people to step into a higher caliber of leadership. Because I truly believe that the world needs leaders today, people that are willing to step up, speak up, and really create, actively, proactively create the kind of world that we want to live in. You know, I think we've been maybe for a long time sort of asleep, as it were, and sort of waiting for other people to create the change, whether it's world leaders, whether it's in politics, whether it's in business, whether it's even in our family, our immediate environment. And the goal and the vision for our company is to support people in really taking ownership of their lives. And where that came from, for me, it's been a lifelong journey. I grew up being mentored by my grandfather, who was a direct disciple of Mahatma Gandhi from the age of 4 years old. And it really instilled in me the values of what it takes to step up. What does it take to lead? What does it take to take ownership and responsibility? That if something is not working for you in your environment, how do you take the steps to do it, to change it, to transform it, and really do it in a way where it's compassionate, where it's non-violent, where it's sort of really remaining true to your ethics and your values and what you stand for. So we're not creating a bloodbath around us in the process. And this has really been, so I've grown up with this, and really my vision now is to support people in sort of taking that into their own lives. Maybe we're not going to be living, operating at a global level, and some of us will be, and some of us, can grow into that. But whatever level, whether it's on a community level, whether it's on a national level, whether it's on a global level, Elite Performance Coaching is here to take you to that next level of growth, where you are leading and making a massive impact and influence in the world while staying true to your core values.
That's really brilliant. And in particular, when you said about where does it come from, it seems like you mentioned a name that is Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes.
So can you tell a bit more about how was the relationship with your grandfather in that, and what were you doing at the beginning? Because I know that you had an amazing career before now stepping out in this new role, this evolution of yourself. Can you tell a bit more about how did you implement all this learning at such a young age?
Sure. I think you had two questions there. So one was sort of how my grandfather was mentored, and he met Gandhi when he was 16 years old.
Wow.
And as soon as he met him, he just knew that his life had changed. He was completely moved by his vision and his passion, and so he dedicated his life to following him, to being mentored by him. He stayed with him in his house several times. He worked with him very closely so there's an amazing thing about working with a mentor and a coach, that they instill in you the values that and should really show you how to live them. And so the values of truth, compassion, global responsibility, living in a non-violent, in a compassionate way, and being able to communicate that to others has been, my grandfather's complete embodiment of that. He was worked with him very closely for 16 years. He was actually jailed for 2 years, and then at that point the Indian government made him leave the country, actually. And so he left and went to Kenya. And at that point, that was when he met my grandmother and got married, and they had 15 children together.
Wow!
He went from being a sadhu and committed to political activism and on the spiritual path, and discarded that, met my grandmother, fell in love, and they got married and had a whole bunch of kids, and his life transformed.
You have a couple of uncles around the world then.
A lot of a very, very, very large family.
Wow.
So, but it's really, really interesting. So, in answer to your question, sort of where is that taking me on my journey from a very young age? In Gandhi's sort of foundation for living was very much he took, sort of being the change has become this sort of bumper sticker. sort of flip chart, if you were to, of how do we want to live in the world. It starts from us. It starts from the inside, and that foundation for me is very much based on a sort of being spiritually aligned. And whether that's, it doesn't necessarily have to have a religious connotation, but it's more of a connection with your own value system. What is truthful for you? What is alive in you? And then being able to communicate that, express that to people so that they understand, so that there's an alignment between the inner and the outer. And that foundation, as it were, I grew up with it, studying yoga from a very early age. And my grandfather, very, very disciplined man, every day, like clockwork. He has, didn't miss a day in his life where, a couple of hours of study every day of developing and working on himself. He would read scriptures to sort of, for his own learning and growth. He read a lot of poetry. He studied leaders. He 2-hour yoga practice every day. There was just, meditation. That was all a big part of my growing up. So that was my foundation, if you will, is just having that center and that peace and that focus. And I've as a sort of consequence, I've been teaching those practices for the last 19 years. And for me, there was the stepping stone from which to just say, okay, now we want to work on ourselves, of course, but ultimately it's about, there's a bigger picture here at stake. It's not about me living in my comfort zone, in my peaceful place, and and then there are wars going on in the world, and there's chaos, and there's there are people living on £2, less than £2 a day, and there's poverty and there's race. There's so much, so many challenges and difficulties that are going on in the world that for me, it's about using this inner space as a springboard to say, how can I serve?
Yes, and in particular about service, like you actually put the word that we are, that is a kind of core for today, for the topic of today, and in particular in what you do, the word service has a big impact and has a big meaning. For the people that don't know you, you're involved in training global leaders
Yes.
to create more peaceful nations. Can you, before we move on with the topic of the webinar, can you just talk a bit more about the recent work that you have been done in relate to create global peace, which is thanks God.
So ultimately that's sort of that's where I'm going with this. All of this training is for us as individuals, because I really believe when it starts with us, it affects our community. It gives other people permission to shine and step into their into their power, and it has a global impact. And one of the things that I've been doing a lot in my trainings is working with peace organizations, working with people in the realm of business and politics, people that are looking to really make a global impact in the world and say, and one of the challenges that we're having in the world is that we understand the concepts, but when it comes to the reality, when it comes to actually living it, when we're faced with, whether it's an individual or a country or another business or whoever it is that is in front of us that has a different value system to us, has a different mode of operation, they're rubbing us up the wrong way. We're not resonating with their model of seeing the world. Everything that we stand for and we believe in and we know flies out the window. And so it's really about, how do you find that compassion for other people when you least want to be compassionate? How do you find the ability to be peaceful when you're in the middle of a war zone? And it doesn't mean being weak. It doesn't mean not standing up for what you believe in. Gandhi was very, very clear at that moment that he was thrown off that train in South Africa because he had a first-class ticket, but he wasn't allowed to sit in that first-class carriage. He knew something had to shift. And he certainly didn't go back to his friend circle and say, thank God I'm, with my friends who understand me. Let's sit in a circle and sing Kumbaya and hope it's all going to go away. He didn't say that. He was very clear he needed to take action. He needed to go and talk to the people that needed to be talked to, have the difficult conversations that needed to be had so that change can, begin to happen. So it's about being very firm and taking a stand. But how do we do that?
And I can see that all these teachings and this way of being of, okay, this is what we want to create, but it's not about being passive, but going out there and really taking action is something that you are living it every day. I've met you 1 year ago, and in this 1 year, your life changed massively. And I've seen you taking action on action on action every single day, and now creating what is a global impact in such a short period of time. So you are an inspiration always for me, and I always look up at you because for what you have created, and you're a living example of those teachings. So
thank you.
I'm mesmerized. Now that people know about you and about what you do, today the topic is 5 elite performance strategies for innovation and excellence in business.
Yes.
When you gave me this title, I was really thrilled because I believe that as an entrepreneur, or if not an entrepreneur, as a person that always want to give my best, I'm always looking for that distinction, that small thing that can make the difference. And you're a real expert on this. So these 5 elite performance strategies, tell us a bit more, please. We are here and we are craving for that.
Okay, so for me, again, I talked to you about the leadership comes from us. So it's an inner to an outer mode. So this is really about how do we show up. And as business leaders, we want to stand out in the marketplace, of course. We want to make a global impact. We want to grow the impact and influence we have on our customers, on our clients, whoever our audience is. And there are certain distinctions that elite performers, and I'm talking about elite performers, I'm talking about people that are the top 3% in the industry. The Michael Jordans of the world, the Celine Dion's of the world, the people that, sort of Barack Obama, the people that have most impact and influence. The reason that they do is because they're following certain strategies. They have a certain mindset, a certain mode of operation that if we take it on, it transforms us. And I know this from experience because my grandfather was mentored by Gandhi, and there's so many examples of world leaders. You've got Oprah, and Barbara Walters. We've got, let's see, Warren Buffett and Benjamin Graham was his mentor. Every successful person, every leader has a leader. Every successful person has a coach. Every successful person has a mentor. And I'm going to talk about that in just a while. But it's having, it's that the lessons are out there. And so we're silly if we just sort of attempt to figure it out all on our own. If we can follow these distinctions, put them into place, all of a sudden our journey in business is expedited. So that's the reason I really wanted people to go and learn some distinctions so that they can just implement right away. They start to put these sort of 5 strategies and implement them into their business. They'll see results very, very quickly.
Brilliant. So now, without further ado, I'm gonna surprise you a bit, because obviously we are here to add a lot of value, and I don't often tell everything to the people that come to the webinar, just because I want to see also a surprise reaction.
Sure.
It's just part of it. So what I want you to tell me is, first of all, what are the key strategies? We are going to establish through them one by one on these 5, but what I want to see, so that that our audience can relate, is how those distinctions applied to that you applied on your personal journey help you out. Does it make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm very happy to do that.
Fantastic, brilliant. So people can get to know you much more. I can see, okay, so this is the distinction, this is how practical is applied, this is the journey.
Sure.
So leave you for the first one.
Awesome. Before I actually start with the performance strategies, I wanted to just share a little bit about, because I talked earlier about sort of how we stand out in the marketplace, and one of the things for me that is very important is creating, and actually I mentioned even co-creating as also our way of looking at the world. To be a creator means that to be in that constant state of creation, to be in that constant state of anything is possible, and that's sort of the springboard that that I'm coming from. That I find that businesses, the reason that we need these distinctions is because we have been nurtured, I think, from a sort of very early age to conform, right? To toe the line, to fit in, and as a result, our creativity is squashed, and any great idea we have, it's knocked down very quickly. That's our tendency, because we don't want to be wrong, we don't want to make a mistake, we don't want to appear foolish. And in the business world, it's the death of your business, right? So these elite performance distinctions, these strategies for stepping up your game, are really an invitation for you to play, to explore, to look at different ways of doing something that might not be normal or familiar for you, but daring to take that risk, because that's what's going to separate you. That's what's going to separate you from the marketplace, and give you that winning edge, as it were. Okay. So without further ado, the first distinction is to track and monitor your progress. Right. Track and monitor your progress. We need to know where we start and where we want to go. And we need to be able to measure it in a very systematic way so that we can see that we're getting results. One of the biggest challenges for businesses are that they're just waddling and bumbling along, testing out things, doing things here and there, not sure if things are working because they're not continuously monitoring how's this working. And this is about numbers, actually. This is about knowing what your numbers are. It's about, and there's different ways of tracking and monitoring progress. And I'll draw from my personal experience since you asked. I used to be a professional dancer. And I've come from the world of high performance, working with athletes in that realm of, and that's my background. And so every single day, we trained. I mean, I've from a very early age, I've known what it's like to work towards mastery, and the diligence of working towards that on a daily basis. And so, how do you do that? You do it by repetition. That's one way, right? So doing a skill continuously. You can do it by varying the intensity of a particular activity. I'll sort of make a comparison that people will understand. If you're training for something, imagine you're going to the gym. If you did sit-ups, 20 sit-ups today, and you did 25 sit-ups tomorrow, and then 30 sit-ups the next day, you're increasing the frequency with which you're doing something. So you're progressing by the number of sit-ups that you can accomplish each day. Now, another way of tracking your progress might be the quality of the sit-up that you do. Right? So I'm not just doing crunches without any paying attention to form, and hurting my shoulders and wrecking the rest of my body in the process. No, I'm actually working very strategically to lengthen the abdominal wall, to keep everything else relaxed. So really focusing on the core, so the quality is being affected. So that's another way of monitoring your progress. Another way is to add a new level of skill to what you're doing, and that's something that when we're talking about, we'll talk about it in this program that we're doing on the 1st of July, which is all about building your business the Walt Disney way. We know that Walt Disney was a master at using his creativity to be able to take his business to he created an empire.
Yes.
Based on his creativity and his imagination. Did it in a very systematic way, and a way that you were able to actually track your progress. Is this working? And if it isn't, discard, and if it is, keep going forward. And we're going to talk about that in a little while. But that's that level of mastery, so artistry, adding that new level of skill. The quality, which is about what kind of innovation and flair do you bring, so that you stand out in the marketplace. What are the techniques for developing that innovation and flair? And in developing your creative skills are one way of opening up that sort of innovation muscle within you. It's like, how do you approach the old problem in a new way? how do you sort of stretch your capabilities, your ways of looking at a problem, new strategies, new ways of approaching it, and you might actually come up with new solutions in the process. So that's another way. And the other way is actually putting yourself into a tougher environment. So you're doing the same thing that you're doing, but now the environment's more challenging, so you're a little bit more in your comfort zone because it's raining or snowing outside. Think of Rocky, pulling his little sledge in the snow, right? Yeah. And I'll give you an example of that. I had one of my clients was a poker player, and I was training him for a world tournament. And he came to me, and I remember this. It's 9 days before the tournament, absolutely just exhausted, burned out, completely confused, and head and a mess and a clutter, just saying, everything I'm doing is not working for me. How do I need to focus, I need clarity, I need some elite performance, I need to win this tournament, I need to turn this around, what can we do? We had 9 days. And so, of course, his sort of, yes, I can sort of, we went through all the processes of, okay, here, how do you center yourself, how do you develop your focus, all of those, all the foundations. But now here's the challenge. When you're in a competitive environment, whether you're going for gold, whether you're in a tournament, all of a sudden his competitive environment means that there are cameras on him, of course, global event. There's audience members like eagle eyes. You've got all the people that you're competing against who are looking at you. So all of a sudden that peaceful state is challenged because you're in an environment that is making your heart race, and all of a sudden that piece is going to be challenged. So the way that we trained was actually, develop the foundations and then put it, and then now we're going to have the crowd cheering in the background. We're going to have all these distractions coming in at you at every single angle. So you train at that level where you're so, you can, there can be an earthquake going on, and you can still maintain what it is that you need to maintain and deliver what you need to deliver. And so consequently, you actually go into that competitive environment. He won, by the way. He won his title. Whilst he was at poker, he won $660,000. And
which is not bad.
He won his first title, So great results. So there's an example of, just some of the ways that we can measure and track things and change things in our environment to be able to accelerate our level.
Now, thank you very much for the first distinction. So the first elite performance strategy is track and monitor your progress, and you can do it in different ways.
Sure.
Through repetition, to add new skill to the equation.
There are many more. Those are just some ideas because we've got an hour today, and I want to get through
definitely
and talk about a whole bunch of other exciting things too. But there are more. So those are just some ideas to get started.
Yeah, exactly. This is something that they can start applying because, of course, there are so many things. There are so many additional features that we can add to the equation. But if we just start adding one or two, our result can improve massively. So this is what we are looking for today. And so we were saying repetition, adding something new, changing the quality, or do the same things in a tougher environment, which actually is stretching our boundaries even more. And training with Clinton's way, we know something about that, don't we?
So one of the things, in fact, we're going to, again, in the event on 1st of July is very much about that, is putting you in a different environment, is asking people that are there to be working on a new skill, because we're going to be working on resolving our business challenges through movement, which is something that most people have not even addressed. And how do you look at creativity and innovation, and problem solving from that perspective? So we're going to be looking at ways that we can actually sort of develop as entrepreneurs, opening up our creativity and innovation through using this.
Yeah, and so guys, like if you're thinking about not coming to the event, I'm just really sorry for you. That's simple as that. So moving on.
Moving on.
Second elite performance strategy.
So the second strategy is accountability. We have to hold ourselves accountable for our own performance. And this is very much a Gandhi mentality. This is very much a CEO mentality. This is the way that I encourage all of you listening, watching here right now, to implement, to take 100% responsibility for everything that is going on around you. And I know that some of you are going to be thinking, but Lina, some of the things that happen are not my fault.
It's not me.
The problem with this level of thinking is that it takes the power away from us. So if we look at in a business situation, whether CEO or not, if we, as an employee, as a business owner, everything is your responsibility. But whatever role you play, if we start looking at what is going on around, whatever situation that comes up and says, okay, how did I contribute to this? How can I change this? What can I do to shift this from a negative to a positive? It is very empowering. Very, very empowering. This is really about taking ownership of the outcome of what it is that you want, and and that idea that you are somehow you created that reality. And, if we were going to go into a whole sort of spiritual dimension with this conversation, the whole idea that what's created in your external reality is just a reflection of you. That can stir people a little bit. But just that idea that on some level you've created it. You've manifested what is occurring in your environment. So how do you take responsibility to shift that? It's a very, very powerful mindset, a way of approach of being able to shift things. Because from that perspective, again, now you can start to ask different questions, more powerful questions, as opposed to the kind of resignation. You're sitting back and saying, well, it's his job. It's his responsibility to change it. It's his person to come up with a new marketing plan that's going to work. Or how do I create? How do I become a creator? Who do I need to talk to implement this new plan? Oh, I spot something in that could be tweaked, or a little flaw in this business based on my experience. How can I communicate this? It's looking for ways to change something for the benefit of everyone around you. It's taking that ownership and responsibility to show up 100%.
So you're talking about accountability and responsibility here. How did this distinction, this elite distinction, impacted your business? This is what we are talking today. So how can you give us an example about how was
every single day, Simone? Every single day, I created this company from scratch, and obviously I've done it because I've been driven by a big purpose of being, wanting to serve and support people. But if I don't show everything that happens around me, it's because of me. Every mistake that happens, every screw up that happens, it's because of me. Every person, even if I outsource something to somebody else, whether it's marketing, whether it's working on my website, whether it's putting some copy together, if it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, what did I do? Where did I miscommunicate things? Because it's really easy to say, oh, they screwed up, they did a bad job, and perhaps it does require, okay, maybe I need to assess, if they're the right person for the job. But again, it's coming back to me, and I need to look at myself and say, what do I need to do differently here? Is it that I hired the wrong person for the job? Is it that I didn't train them the right way? I didn't articulate what it is that I wanted from them? Is it that I didn't communicate with them? Where can I step it up so that I can ensure that I don't do it again? And that's the responsibility part. So absolutely every single day in my business, because if I didn't, there's no way a business can actually succeed and really move forward, because you're constantly at the mercy of, okay, well then I'm just gonna have to replace this person. There's a level where you just hit stagnation, because now you're constantly looking for other people to fix things. And there's so many examples, global examples of businesses who, leaders of organizations, leaders of countries even, who just taken their eyes off the ball for a second. Donald Trump talks about this a lot, actually. The moment that he's just, he takes his eye off the ball and trusts somebody and doesn't know what's going on, it is when things, a big deal has crumbled, something's crumbled. So leadership is delegating, it's outsourcing, but every step of the way, you're taking responsibility for what's showing up.
Yeah, brilliant. So I can relate with what you're saying, in particular when you said, well, how did I contribute to this? And you know that sometimes, well, not just sometimes, like often in life, learnings come in not the most pleasurable way. So I remember that my accountant, not long ago, took more than 1,000, I was scammed from him, but more than £1,500. That's the amount I paid him. And so for me, in that moment, having the reality check and not pointing the finger instead of, oh, you did this, you did that, you did that. Yes, I did it, but how was I responsible in creating this in my business? And so the immediate reaction was like, oh, damn, it's not me. But then, as you said, it's about taking ownership, taking responsibility, and taking back the power to say, okay, I screwed up this time, it's my responsibility, how can I do this different next time?
Yeah.
And this is brilliant. So, second is accountability and responsibility. Now, shall we move on in the third?
Sure. So the third is my favorite. It's one of my, oh, they're all my favorite, but I love this one. And this is, it's train, 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 and train. And this one is about the diligence, the discipline, the commitment, the consistency to do something, not just once, but again and again and again, right? Because, you know, we're very much conditioned to just thinking, you know what, I'm just going to be exposed to this skill, I'll be exposed to this training, I'll be exposed to this new idea, and all of a sudden everything will change in our business. And it doesn't work like that, because, you know, if you think about anything that you learn, a kid that's learning how to ride a bicycle, you get on the bicycle, you fall off and you stumble a couple of times and you ride the bicycle. But if you don't ride, there's a place between, there's a point, you know, where you just have to ride the bicycle several times, kind of over and over and again, before you can just get on a bike and just ride it, where it becomes automatic, like driving your car. And it's the same in business. It's the same in sales. It's the same in marketing. You're learning a new language of how to connect with your customers, how to connect with your clients. Well, you might know the idea sort of on a mental level, but until you just start drilling it and practicing it, I don't even like the word practice, to be honest. It's like you're doing it. You're training it with a level of refinement that it becomes part of your DNA, part of your consciousness. And that's the level, that's elite performance, where you just, you know, you hit that basketball and you know it's going to go in the net, because you've done it so many times that you know the odds are in your favor. Okay, maybe 1 or 2 times out of that 100 it's not going to happen, or you know, whatever it is, but you've drilled it so many times that level of mastery is just going to be there. And you know, for me, again, my whole life, I can sort of attest to this, that I've been training in the art of yoga, you know, from a very early age. And so now, I mean, anytime I talk about these, when I talk about values, when I talk about what it means to train your inner body on a physical level, on a mental level, on a spiritual, emotional level, I've been living it for nearly 40 years. And I don't know how else to be. And I know that everything that I share and I communicate with people now is because I've just been doing it for so long that I don't know how else to, you know, there's no other alternative for me. And now when I think about implementing a new skill, you know, in my own business world, for example, if it's something that is new to me, you know, I do it like a machine. It's sort of over and over and over again, to a point where it becomes natural. You know, that the idea of the overnight success is, it's you know, it's that consistency, it's discipline to do something so often. Again, with those distinctions, we talked about tracking and monitoring progress along the way, where it gets to where you achieve these things, these amazing things in your life. And that's sort of when people look back and say, how did you accomplish that? It was simply this. It was train, 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 and train.
Train, yeah.
That's the distinction. It's happening. Yeah.
So, for whoever didn't pick up that the distinction is train, this is a really fundamental, as you were saying. I can relate with. I'm now training. I was training to do headstands in yoga, and I took 1 month of headstands on the wall, and then as soon as I removed the wall, I would find myself like wobbling back and forth, and like going on the other side. But then I remember that I was in the park last day, and after 15 times I felt like it was the first headstand worked, and I was the happiest man in the world.
Awesome.
And then the day after, I did it in my room, and the first time the headstand happened.
Congratulations.
Good job. Yeah, good. So that really taught me about there's never enough time to do it, but then it starts to the point where it becomes automatic, and then your body, your consciousness knows it.
Yes.
And that's where you have it inside you, and that's in business is fundamental.
Sure, absolutely. You know, you think about, I'll give you an example. Actually, athletes are a really good example of this. When I was training, I spent 8 hours a day training in order to do a 30-minute, 90-minute, 2-hour performance in the evening. And I spent years, I literally spent, you know, probably the first 10 years training, little, and got to get to a place where I could just do something effortlessly, you know, at a professional level. Athletes are the same. The military are really good at this as well. You know, they spend probably, I don't even know what the percentages are, but probably, you know, not more than 10% of their time, I imagine, in combat. They spend the rest of their time training, drilling techniques over and over again. You know, athletes, we spend our time training so that we get to, so that's how we reach that level of mastery. But if you think about it in the business world, it's actually a total flip. You probably spent 90% of your time working on business, you know, things that need to get done, sales, marketing, you know, all the things, and less than 10%, you know, I would imagine 10% would be lucky for most businesses. You know, most people don't even, you know, refine their skills, and those that do, you know, little, but it's, you know, and then you sort of wonder why you're not progressing, why your company is not growing at the level that you want it to grow at. But really taking the time, so whether it's, you know, through seminars, whether it's through conferences, whether it's bringing speakers in to, you know, to train the staff, you know, to train the executives to be up in their game. Learning from people who've already done it for is so powerful, because you're expediting your progress. But actually taking time, scheduling time, you know, in the month and in the year to work on your development is very powerful.
It is, and I can definitely agree with you in this. And this is why at GTeX we are doing things in an experiential way, and you're going to create experiential activities, because in this way, people there will just have concepts in their mind, but actually will train, and train.
Sure.
Now,
creating that training environment, absolutely, and committing to showing up, committing to your development.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Now, tip number 4.
Tip number 4 is raise the bar. Raising the bar. So amateurs like to stay the same. They like to stay at, you know, where it's comfortable, where it's easy, where it's familiar. Professionals look for ways that they can always raise their level. There's minute differences that take them to a notch up. They notch up. They're looking for ways to improve. Right? Constantly looking for ways to improve, looking for ways to raise their standard, looking for ways that they can be of service. And here's another difference between the two, and it's in mindset. And I call it the difference between an amateur and a professional, but it's also what distinguishes an elite from a non-elite. The average person, when they're approaching any interaction, is looking at it from the perspective of, what can I get? What can I get out of this? And so behind that, on some level, is the psychology of, well, who do I need to exploit or manipulate in order to get what I want? It might not be so strongly that it's that conscious, but it's very much a I win so that everybody else loses mentality. When you start raising your game and performing at an elite level, and you start raising the bar, the questions become very different. It becomes about how can I improve? How can I stand out? How can I make a difference? But it's in order to serve. It's in order to make a difference. It's in order to contribute to the greater good. And so in the business realm, we're looking at ways for not how do we squash the competition, right? And we see that a lot in the marketing. It's just like, it's vicious. And business can get very, very vicious. In order to succeed, everybody else has to die. Everybody else has to lose. Everybody else has to be poor and bankrupt. And yay, we won. At the top of the mountaintop, gloating while there's a bloodbath surrounding us. And that's not my model of the world. And that's not it's not what I share. For me, performing at an elite level is doing it in a way where you're raising your game instead of shutting everybody else down. It's like if you want to make a difference in the world, if you want to revolutionize your niche, your market, your industry, look at how you can step up. We spend so much time worrying about the competition and sort of strategizing ways to knock them down. Gandhi was very clear that he's going to work with the opposition. He's going to work with the British government to get what he wanted. Keep your enemies close. It's what he said. But you want to know who they are. Walt Disney. He just blasted the competition out of the water by just coming up with the concept of Imagineering. You just imagine what is the craziest thing that you can dream up. Now, how do we put it into reality? And he's created this empire as a result. And you look at all the successful world leaders today, and they've done it by raising their level, raising the bar, their own bar.
So I can definitely relate with this, in particular in something that is core to GTeX as well. When me and Ben met for the first time, we were obviously talking about, okay, what we want to do with our company. And there are two ways. There is or fighting other businesses that are in our same industry, how many events there are out there, or raising the bar every time, step by step, at the point where people will come to us because we are offering something that is great and unique.
Mm-hmm.
And how we were doing this, we were actually supporting all our competition around, and we are still doing that. We are still in the leadership team of now we just finished, but we were working closely with the leadership team of the Yes Group, working closely with the leadership team of Pony Express, and all these other events of personal, business, and speaking development that people could see as our competition, but for us is a way of, here we are, this is what we can do, we are here to serve you.
And it's worked for you, clearly. It seems like it's working for you, right?
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's not bad.
I feel happy. And in particular, you can definitely agree with me saying that it takes off a lot of pressure.
Of course.
Just like, oh my God, I don't have to worry of all the people behind me that are there to screw me up. And because I'm not coming from that place. Obviously, so this is what also in the training room of GTeX during the event on the 1st of July you will find. You will find people that are there raising their bar, and so you can raise your bar as well.
Sure.
And it becomes like a mutual growth, and that's why we call ourselves growing together exponentially. This element of growth together. So now the fourth one we said that is raising the bar. Now, moving on. Oh, are we already on the fifth one?
We're on the fifth one already.
Are we already on the fifth one?
So the fifth one is hungry for coaching. Hungry for coaching. It's about asking what you want, asking for what you want from the people that are able to support you And again, this goes back to, I touched upon it earlier about having mentors, having people that have done it before. I had my grandfather had Gandhi, and so as a result, I've been able to learn some key distinctions of what does it take to impact and influence an entire nation. What does it mean to live your truth? What does it mean to act with compassion and non-violence, but ask for what you want? And as a result, you're taking that to places like the UN-affiliated organizations, and speaking to them about, okay, here's a reality of the war that's going on in Syria. Here's what's happening in the Middle East. Here's what's happening, in Russia, and being able to give them actual, here are solutions that have worked for other world leaders. Here are strategies, actual tangible strategies that you can implement into your organization, into your party, into your team, so that you can begin to live these principles. And this is, then sort of here's a ripple out effect in the world. So, gathering your team around you, to me, this is crucial. Gathering a team of people around you who are able to give you, sort of point out things that perhaps you haven't been able to see by yourself. And a lot of people, when we don't sort of do these publicly. We're afraid to ask. We don't want feedback because we see it as a personal knock. That especially when the higher the ranks you go in the realm of business and politics and whatever field you are, you're supposed to know it all, right? And you can't possibly know it all. Again, so it's just having the courage to be able to reach out and say, how can I improve this? How can I be better? Gathering that team around you, a board of advisors around you, I highly recommend this. To any business, by the way, you don't have to be an Apple or a Google to have. You can be a small business owner, and I highly recommend you gather a team of people around you that you can turn to for advice about different things and bounce off ideas off of them, meet with them, sort of regularly, and talk about the things that are working and not working, and have that support system around you, because it will carry you, it will give you momentum. It'll support you. And one of the things that again, sort of, we're going to be doing on July, I'll be taking you through an activity, everyone through an activity. It's going to sort of help them problem solve issues in their business. It's very practical. And then we're actually working in teams and and then using each other to be able to get feedback, to say, so we'll be looking at sort of where are the loopholes, where are the places in our business where we are experiencing shortfalls. Do we need to develop, our creative level? Do we need to, work on this element? And we'll actually pinpoint those on the day, and then use the team, the power of team, to be able to have, people get input from people who come from a different perspective, who have a different skill level, come maybe from a very different business, and be able to get that input and that feedback is so powerful. So again, that's something we're going to be offering on the 1st as well. But having that, that hunger to dare to ask for that level of improvement, so that you can raise your game is very, very powerful in the business world.
Fantastic. So before we wrap up and we tell our fantastic audience for who is following today live or who is going to watch the recording of this webinar, how did you use this tool, this tip of being hungry for coaching in your own business lately?
Again, I don't think there's a one-off instance. I have a team of people around me. I have mentors in different disciplines. So in the business realm, I have spiritual mentors. I think for me, it's just I have a large team of people, and I've learned this, by the way. I'm going to tell you this. I learned this the hard way, because I remember in my 20s, I was given all this advice by a person who was running a multi-million-dollar organization. I went to the Celine Dion for many, many years. For those of you that don't know, I worked with her and I was her personal trainer and coach, and sort of helped her accelerate her performance to a higher level as well. And so I was fortunate at that time, so my 20s, early 20s, to be surrounded by people who are playing at a global level. And actually sort of seeing the systems in place and all the strategies they had in place, you know, and people were sharing me this news and this distinctions, and I wanted to do things my way. And so I didn't listen. I just brushed it off my shoulder because I thought, you know, I need to have this experience. I need to learn this for myself. Well, I did learn it for myself, but it took me 15 years. You know, so, you know, in retrospect, I look back and I'm learning these lessons now in my business as I'm playing a bigger game now. And I think, wow, if only I'd listened, I would have shaved off so much time. You know, and now, so now I'm the total opposite. If I don't know something, I'm okay with asking. If I don't know the shortest, you know, the quickest way, I'm going to go to somebody and say, okay, I haven't done this before. How can I expedite this? And there are people around me that have done it before, and I go to them. And you know, and so things happen much more quicker. You know, I think you and I were having a conversation about how much momentum has been happening for me. You know, in the last 6 months, the last year, and it's really just me just understanding that, okay, here's what I'm brilliant at, here's what I'm spectacular at, I can knock this out, I can crank this out, and then these are the areas where there are people that have done it before that are playing at a different level. Let me tap into that support system.
Yeah, so thank you very, very much for this example. So I want to wrap up all the 5 tips that you shared. So first one is creativity and creation. So you started introducing the importance of creativity and creation, hence why we are going to do the event on the 1st.
Let me tell you why we're doing that. I'll tell you that because one of the things to, again, stand out, we're talking about is as a leader, as an elite performer, if we want to create the world that we want to live in, it starts with us creating it. Right? It starts, and our tendency is, you know, that we've been sort of knocked down. Our solutions are just, we're shut down. We're not taught to think for ourselves. We're taught to toe the line. So this workshop, to me, is really about giving people tools where they can tap into their creativity, flex their innovation muscle. And I'm using the Disney model because the master of innovation there and you know, creating that strategy, but I put a twist on it. I put a global impact systems twist on it, and we're going to be exploring it through movement because that's, you know, my background is movement, and the reason I do that is because we have experiences. Our tendency in the business world is we get a problem, we sit around the boardroom and we butt heads until we come up with a solution. That's one way of doing it. But the reality is that every experience that we have on a soul level, on a mental level, on an emotional level, is going to make an imprint on the body. And there is no escaping this truth. So when you've had an experience, a particular experience in your professional world, it's going to leave an imprint. So in order to change that imprint, in other words, in order to change the way we address a problem, think of new ways that haven't been thought of before. We need to change the way it's holding itself in our body. Also, it's a hell of a lot more fun. Right? It's so much more fun because there's a difference between, you know, going to a therapist and sitting on the couch hashing out your past life and all the trauma, or just going, you know what, I'm just going to change the blueprint. I'm just going to think of, you know, a new way of operating this. I'm going to change the pattern. Yeah. And it's, you know, it can be exhausting and tiring and dark, or it can be fun and it can be playful. And I'm all for fun and playful in business. So it's a way of you know, actually tackling real challenges, real things that are going on in your business, bringing new solutions to the table, using the Disney model as a foundation. But as you see on the first, we're going to add some real differences to it to really just take it to another level.
Brilliant. So the workshop is going to be on the 1st of July at 7 o'clock. You can find on the page you are watching this webinar all the details. If you want to get your ticket now, hurry up. we have the first 10 ticket for £6. So hurry up, you can find the link below and all the information about all the details about the event and how is it going to be, and is Release Your Inner Genius the Walt Disney Way. Lina is the first time is delivering this workshop in the UK, never been delivered before, so it's a national premiere, and we are so excited to have the opportunity to offer such a world-class training to our audience that are GTeX. And very selfishly speaking, I'm just looking forward going there and playing with it. I will leave Ben to deal with the administration.
I'm very excited, and I want to encourage everyone that's watching this right now, even if you don't live in London, even if you don't live in the UK, sign up, because I'd love to just send you some highlights by video so you can stay part of the, sort of, learn a few things along the way, because I mean the trainings, the process is incredible, and I'd love to stay connected with you and help you to sort of follow up with some of the experiences that the participants have. But if you can be at the training, if you're in London, if you need to get on a boat, if you need to fly a plane and get there, because it will change the way that you operate in your business.
So, having said that, there is, I think, nothing more to say for today. It's been a fantastic experience and one of the best webinar that we had the pleasure to host here at GTeX with Lina Patel.
I've had so much fun. Thank you for having me. Sign up, join the webinar. I'm sorry, you're on the webinar, but join the event. Sign up even if you can't attend, so that we can stay connected to you and keep supporting you on your journey. Because again, so as you were talking about building a network, a team of people around you who are rooting for you, who've done it and willing to support you is gold.
Yeah, exactly.
And will expedite your journey incredibly. And if you're ready and if you're willing, I'm here to help you.
Yeah, and so this is going to be amazing, in particular also because we are going to record the event. So for people that as are overseas or anywhere in the world, wherever you are, or maybe are in UK and that night they have just an aching back and they say, no, I'm not going there. Because
even if you have an aching back, come to the event. I'm telling you why, because we're working with your challenges in your business. The places that you want to step it up and play a bigger game, we're going to workship those at the event. So you can watch the video,
and we're going to fix your back. Through that, we are going to fix your back through the movement.
Look, and I come from a sort of training, injury, pain management background, so I'll throw in that bonus for you and take care of your back for free. Come to the event.
So it's going to be a secure practice session that night. So we are going to also create the video of the event for people that cannot come to attend, but obviously is the experience that make the difference, because one of the key distinction is train. Brilliant, fantastic. Lina, thank you very much for today, for coming here. Thank you to everyone that is watching this webinar. We are looking forward to seeing you on the 1st of July. Ciao.